have about Bitcoin, such as being a deflationary currency. That was until I met Chris Ellis. Chris, tell me about the concerns that you have.
So Bitcoin right now is still an experiment, as are most cryptocurrencies, and the price is mostly supported by a speculative sentiment. And that's because markets are forward pricing mechanisms. People are looking at the information and they're buying on the basis of what they believe other people will do in the future with that information. And I think that a lot of people, having spoken to a lot of merchants as well, they are telling me anecdotally that people are not spending their Bitcoins. So I am concerned. I think the economic side of Bitcoin is probably the weakest. That's why we need a lot of these alternative cryptocurrencies to play around with some of the parameters. But we should consider this an experiment for now.
Mm-hmm. One of my concerns is that in a deflation, velocity slows down because your currency is going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today. And so people have a tendency to hoard currency in a deflation, like the Great Depression, for instance. Bitcoin is going to have so many coins per month released, and then that level drops every year or 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Until it gets to a level where it reaches 21 million coins and it stops.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When it stops, I have two concerns. One, the Bitcoin mining that people are doing is what encourages them to leave computers running all over the planet, and that's what makes Bitcoin work. Now, I know there's a small transaction fee, and if velocity, the number of transactions, picks up enough, then the transaction fee is a reason to leave your computer on. Mm-hmm. But you have a deflationary currency that encourages hoarding and not spending it on transactions. And so when it reaches the 21 million, what is the reward for leaving the computers running if velocity slows and people tend to hoard it and there's no new coins to be mined anymore? So, and plus, the cost of power is probably going to go up in the future.
Yeah.
Have you got any other concerns?
Yeah, one of my concerns in this space is that most people here are communications and marketing. They're in the business of persuading people. And I think we need more developers. We need to inspire younger people. There are probably fewer than 1,000 people on the planet that actually know how to code a cryptocurrency. And that is a huge form of centralization. They become like Congress. And then we have to kind of go to them as lay people who don't know how to code and ask for changes, or otherwise we end up having to fork the code and produce our own one. So I still think there's a lot to do in terms of outreach, getting existing programmers into the Bitcoin space, onto the GitHub repository, so they can start making their own changes and start experimenting and learning as well.
So what have I learned in the past few days about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? I've learned that they're a simple mathematical formula that is fair, honest, and impartial. I've learned that this is more than just a digital currency. I thought that this was just for sending value from one person to another. This is a revolution that will change the world. It will tear down borders. It will connect the globe. It is as important as the internet was. But because it connects people, because it frees people, there will come a day where there is a call to regulate it, to stop it, to shut it down possibly. The people that are calling for those things, their motives need to be questioned, because what they are trying to prevent is freedom. It's that simple. One of the things that cryptocurrency does is it provides freedom, and the people that will be calling for its regulation or its abandonment will be the financial sector, central banks, governments, because it provides for a lot of the things that government does very poorly, it will do very well. That the financial system currently does very poorly, it will do well. It's fair, honest, impartial, instant, and cannot be subverted. The only caveats are that Bitcoin has first mover advantage. It's the largest one, but it may not be the one that succeeds. It's an experiment at this point. But the important thing is that the genie is out of the bottle. Freedom is on its way to us right now. We can all support it, or we can let it languish. And I think that this cannot be stopped. So am I going to sell my gold and silver and convert it all to Bitcoin? Absolutely not. Bitcoin, as I said, is an experiment. There is a possibility that these things could go to zero before they're fully developed. There's a possibility of some sort of catastrophic failure. Right now, it has proved very robust and unhackable. You don't know what is going to happen in the future. So one thing to keep in mind, the Germans came up with the Enigma machine in World War II, and it was supposedly uncrackable, and then we broke the code. And then they added another dial to it to increase the complexity manyfold, and it was supposed to be uncrackable, and we cracked the code. So Bitcoin has not been completely proven. It's got 5 years of existence now and robustness. This may be the answer to all of mankind's problems when it comes to a simple medium of exchange, but it's more than that. You can make these smart contracts that settle with a set of rules, so somebody doesn't get paid until all of the rules that you have established are fulfilled. You can create escrow with yourself, where there's a third party that has to sign off that a transaction has been completed before the payment goes through. They're working on things where you can take delivery of something continuously and pay for it as you use it. It would be like paying for the internet for every second that you're using it only, or paying for the gas that's delivered to your house. Instead of monthly, you're being billed per thermal unit, and with no frictional costs involved. So this adds up to efficiency. Therefore, mankind is left over with more prosperity. If there's no third party in between bleeding off economic energy, you end up with more prosperity. This is a very good thing for all of us. And because it is so fair and impartial, there's less of a need for the court system. There's less need for government and rules and regulation and people to enforce all of this stuff. In the future, there will be less need for Wall Street. That Wall Street does not realize it yet, but they are antiquated dinosaurs of the past about to go extinct. You can attach stocks and bonds and things such as that to cryptocurrencies, and companies could now do IPOs just on the internet. They do not need Wall Street anymore. They don't need a third party like Goldman Sachs or some other big brokerage house taking a cut. There's no need to worry about corruption because the code cannot be corrupted. I do know that I am going to be putting some of my capital into cryptocurrencies from now on and supporting this movement and helping to push the freedom of mankind forward.